It was an ordinary morning until it wasn't. The sun was shining in through the window. You were grooming yourself when suddenly the world outside the window turned completely white. What would your cat do if it saw snow for the first time? Would it be delighted, suspicious, scared? I'd seen it plenty of times from inside, but actually experiencing it was different. I hesitated at the door, sniffing the air, listening to the unfamiliar sounds. I knew I should go back inside, but I couldn't resist one more taste of the cold, wet, squishy stuff. And then I heard my human calling my name again. This time he was closer. I struggled to my feet, shaking off the snow, and made my way back to the door. I could hear him now, his footsteps crunching in the snow, his voice calling my name. I rubbed against his leg, purring loudly, and he scooped me up and carried me inside. We raced up and down the porch steps, around the yard, through the snow. Finally, she disappeared around the side of the house. I skidded to a halt, my paws sinking into the snow. He dipped his hand into the snow and made a snowball. Then he tossed it into the air and it landed on my head. I swatted at it, sending snow flying, and he laughed. As I drifted off to sleep that night, I could still feel the cold, wet, squishy stuff on my paws, the crunch of the snow under my paws, the sting of the snow on my face, the thrill of the wind in my fur. It had been scary at first, but not anymore. Now it was fun. I loved the snow, and I couldn't wait for it to fall again. He kept throwing snowballs, and I kept batting them away. Just a day ago, I hadn't known what snow was. We'd love to bring more stories to life for you. Thank you for watching. Now, I couldn't imagine what my life was like without it. We played until my paws were sore and my fur was matted with snow. I could hear her claws scrabbling on the hard ground beneath the snow. Where was she? I took a few steps forward and then she pounced. She landed on my back, her claws digging into my fur. I yowled in surprise and shook her off. She landed on the ground with a thud and then took off again, racing around the yard, leaping over snowdrifts, climbing trees, always staying just out of my reach. He wrapped me in a towel and I purred even louder. It had been scary at first, but not anymore. She leaned into my paws, purring, and I purred back. We stayed like that for a few moments, two cats in the snow, and then she broke away and disappeared. I found her curled up on the porch, watching the snow fall, and I told him all about my adventures in the snow, how amazing it was, how much fun I had, and how I can't wait to go out and play again. But he didn't seem to care. He just kept petting me and scratching my ears, and maybe it wasn't such a great adventure after all. Maybe it was just another ordinary day. I joined her, and we sat together in silence, watching the snow fall, listening to the cold, wet, squishy stuff crunching on the ground. It was fun. I wanted to go out again and explore more of the cold, wet, squishy stuff. I licked it clean and then looked up at the sky. It was snowing harder now. I could hear the wind whistling through the trees, and I could feel the cold, wet, squishy stuff hitting my face. I snuggled closer to her, and we stayed like that for a long time. I took one last step, and then another, and then I slipped up. He scratched behind my ears and told me we'd go back out soon. I needed to see what it looked like underneath all that cold, wet, squishy stuff. I pushed my way past him and dashed out the door. I took a deep breath and plunged right in. I loved it. I dove into the snow, rolling over and over in the cold, wet, squishy stuff. It was amazing, but I wanted to go out now. So I jumped up on the windowsill and watched the flakes swirling and drifting down from the sky. I shook myself and started to make my way back to the house. That's when I saw her. She was sitting on the porch, her fur matted with snow, her eyes wide and scared. I didn't mean to startle her, but I couldn't help myself. I let out a playful meow, and she bolted, disappearing into the house. I wasn't sure what kind of cat she was or why she was outside without her human, but I wanted to play. So I dashed after her. The cold, wet, squishy stuff was still falling from the sky. And when I looked down at the ground, I could see that it covered everything. It covered the birds, the squirrels, the trees. It covered everything. I hit the ground hard, sending a shower of snow into the air. I lay there stunned for a moment, wondering if this was the end of my life. I'd heard stories of cats who went outside and never came back. Maybe they'd gone exploring like I was doing and got lost, or worse, hit by a car. Had this been a mistake? Was this cold, wet, squishy stuff really worth my life? I could hear birds squawking in the trees, dogs barking in the distance, and a new sound. a strange crunching noise that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. Curiosity got the better of me, and I stepped out into the blinding white expanse. Or would it discover a wild, untamed joy in this alien world? Flakes danced like feathers from the sky, swirling and drifting down onto the windowsill. And there, for the first time ever, your curious cat stood pot of glass, mesmerized. The snow was cold, wet, strange, and full of smells and sounds it had never known. What would you do? I don't know what I expected my first day in the snow to be like. At first, it felt strange, even scary. Everything looked and sounded different. But there was something exciting about it, too. I shook myself, sending a spray of snow flying, and took a tentative step forward. My paws sank into the cold, wet stuff. I pulled back my paws quickly, shaking them free of the clinging snow. What a strange sensation. Cold, wet, squishy. I took another step. This time I didn't pull my feet away so quickly. I let the cold, wet, squishy stuff cling to my paws for a few moments before shaking it off. It was like walking on a cloud. I took another step and then another, feeling my way, getting used to the strange sensations all around me. I had no idea how long I stood there exploring, but eventually I heard my human call my name. But I could feel my heart beating in my chest, and I could hear the birds singing in the trees. When I was done being a baby, I followed him around the house, weaving between his legs, rubbing against his ankles, trying to get him to go back out into the cold, wet, squishy stuff. And that's when I realized I needed to go out and explore some more. After a while, I started to get cold and wet and tired. She led me on a merry chase through the snow, and I loved every minute of it. We played until we were both exhausted. And when I finally caught her, she didn't fight me. After a while, I felt something wet on my nose. Then I felt a nudge in my side. It was my human. Then we went inside. He dried my fur and gave me a treat and a scratch behind the ears. Or maybe it was the beginning of something extraordinary. And just like that, my whole world had changed. If you enjoyed this story, please share it with your friends and family.